Today, I'm excited to welcome Chase Damiano to Protea Conversations. Chase is the founder of Human at Scale, where he helps accounting firms build businesses that are scalable, operationally efficient, and less dependent on the owner. His background is anything but traditional, starting as a chemical engineer student before moving into management consulting and entrepreneurship. Chase has developed a unique perspective on leadership, systems, and sustainable growth. Today, he works with accounting firm owners to strengthen their operations, develop leaders, and create businesses that continue to thrive and grow. Chase, great to see you. Welcome to Protea Conversations.
Hey, Zane. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I'm excited. I was looking through my notes, and I say that extremely loosely on like how we met, and I look back, and I was fortunate enough that I found that we got introduced by our good friend Joe Manganelli.
Yeah.
Joe's been on the podcast before, great episode. Everybody should go to listen. But I do feel like he did a really great job of matching people, especially to a surly, difficult person like me, to people that I actually really like, admire. And now I get the opportunity to introduce you and learn a little bit more about you. So this is an exciting moment for me.
Oh, well, I don't perceive you as surly or difficult, so something must be going right here.
Or you catch me on a good day normally, because I think even my wife would describe me as surly and difficult. So, but this is exciting. I want to start right at the beginning, and I had a look, and you started out as chemical engineer. Is that correct?
Yeah, I did. Chemical engineering.
Explain.
Had to get there. Well, when I was in high school, I had a fascination with chemistry, and it was one of my favorite classes. I had great teachers in chemistry, and I was on the path to pursue a chemistry major. My dad, as many dads do, sort of intervened and said, "It's like, hey, have you considered, chemical engineering? It's like a really well-paying job, and have you looked at that?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, sure." So I kind of just went down that path for a bit, and chemical engineering is very unlike chemistry. Surely there's some overlap, but chemical engineering has quite a lot more math included into it. And that was my major. I did a 5-year co-op, 5-year experience at Virginia Tech, and did a co-op internship during that period of time as well. And that got me started with everything. I ended up loving it at the end.
You pursued that as a career afterwards? I know there was a dual major in economics going on at the same time. Based on the history I can see of you, it doesn't seem like it was something that really became the core job from the get-go.
No, you're right. When I graduated, I was fortunate to have 2 different job offers, and one was with DuPont out in Delaware to essentially pursue my dream job, which was designing engineering equipment for manufacturing. Or at least I thought that was my dream job at the time. But instead, life took me in another direction. I was gifted with a son during my time at university, and he and his mom had moved to the DC area. Delaware and DC they're close, but not like close enough. So I had another job opportunity right after college for a company I knew nothing about. What is consulting? I don't even know what this is. The company is called Accenture. I really just had no clue. So I ended up hey, I'm just going to pursue that path and see where it goes, just so I can live close to my son in the DC area. And so that's when chemical engineering formally came to a close for me.
Interesting. Yeah, the message on like Delaware being close to Washington D.C. is like, we've got a map at home where we like scratch off all the states that we visited, and we made an effort of taking the train because we knew it would have a stop in Delaware that we could then claim we'd been to Delaware, because there was no good reason to visit Delaware with a young kid. It was like, what am I going to do in Delaware with it? I think at the time there were 4 and 6 or something like that. So that's my only real interaction with Delaware, other than that people start LLCs there for sort of privacy
Sure.
reasons.
Well, it sounds like, you sounds like you have an opinion on the age-old debate. If you land at an airport in a new country, have you really been to that country? Would you check it off?
I would not check off an airport because I treat them as independent space. I think a train stop is a little bit different because that's a real stop. There's some movement, there's some hustle, there's people in and out. Or an airport, especially, a lot of the countries I've visited through airports, I mean, I've only seen the airport. I don't know what that country is about. A lot of those airports, I don't even know what the weather is like. You go through Dubai, like I have no, you can't see what the weather is like out there. until you step outside and you're like, oh, it's 195 degrees and I'm melting. But so I think train stations count, any drive through counts, but I think, you know, an airport's a little different. The same as like I flew over the whole of the US multiple times. Doesn't mean I visited all those states.
Of course. I like that. I like your perspective. I also wouldn't count airports. Never thought about train stations though, but you're right. You can, there's a lot more flexibility and it's slower moving. So you can actually see what's going on there. I like that.
Yeah, I'm claiming it because I don't particularly want to, but who knows? You know, my kids are still young. Maybe we do a road trip and we really touch the soil and count it a second time.
hmm
So you went to Accenture. Obviously, realized pretty quickly then that it was more than just this random company reaching out to you, and it was quite a massive opportunity.
Yeah, yeah. I got the opportunity to, you know, work on a handful of clients to include some Fortune 50 companies as well as some, Series D tech startups while at Accenture, which was pretty unique for Accenture, especially in the DC area, with so much of Accenture's business is federal.
Hmm.
But yeah, that was about 3 years there. It met my goal of being close to my son, but also it opened up my world towards business and consulting, just things I just knew very little about. I was able to apply some understanding from engineering and economics into that world, but really just started learning is like, wow, that everything's way more people oriented or people driven than I ever would have imagined.
Yeah, talk about the goal of spending time with your son. I mean, obviously, there's obviously some difficulty in. I mean, I know as a parent, there's no difficulty in making a decision to be closer to your kid, but you gave up what you thought was your dream job, right? There must have been a little twinge, but obviously the ultimate goal is a lot more important. But that all worked out. You got to spend the time, you got the relationship that you're looking for.
Oh my God, it's so worked out. One of the best decisions I've ever made. And at the time, it felt like sort of a conflict of, hey, what do I really want to do here? But I'm very proud of that 22, 23-year-old version of myself for making the right choice. That person gave me the gift to become the person who I am today, and I'm proud of that person today. And I have a wonderful relationship with my son, and great experience, great time in my career as well.
How does a 22-year-old, 23-year-old make that decision? It feels like, I've tried to think back when I was 22, 23, I was dumb, stupid, single, no kids, and I was making stupid decisions on a regular basis. Like, how do you go about making that decision in what is probably, you know, the same thing, right? I think the stats show 22, 23-year-old males, their brains haven't totally formed yet, and we're not that great at making decisions, but that seems like a very mature decision that you took at that point in time.
Yeah, thank you. I thought about, that before Jeff Bezos' regret minimization framework came out, or perhaps he was incubating at the time, or it wasn't popularized. I was thinking about regret. I was thinking about, is like, okay, is this going to be a life in pursuit of myself? Going down this career path. Hey, this is what I wanted, or at least what I thought I wanted at the time. Or do I really want to deepen my connection with my son and really like be in his life much more so? When he was born, me and his mom went to different universities, long term relationship, and she ended up moving back home to a suburb of Richmond, Virginia at the time. So there was always distance there. So it was a decision. I was like, do I want to just continue distance when I can totally control that? So what helped facilitate that, of course, is I had friends moving up to the DC area for work as well, friends that were also joining Accenture, and that sort of facilitated and made the decision a little bit easier. I knew I wasn't going to be alone or isolated in this. So that, just putting two and two together just led me to the choice to be like, hey, I'm going to do this.
Was there ever a moment, or is there a moment that you remember that goes like, you're like, yes, this is the right decision?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from then, I haven't looked back at all. It's hard for me to even imagine what my world would be like in engineering, having gone down that other path. It was so long ago at this point that it's just hard to predict how things turned out. Maybe there's a proxy by seeing, how some of my other colleagues have progressed in their careers and their lives and whatnot, but it's not recognizable to me. So I feel so firmly confident that I made the right choice. Again, because I've gotten to do so much more and since then, and again, a beautiful relationship with my son.
And that last part is the most important part, right? Like that creating that relationship makes every decision worthwhile.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so we went from chemical engineering to consultant to coffee.
Coffee. Yeah. Yeah. It was while during my time at Accenture, I met a guy there who then became my future business partner. We both ended up leaving our roles at Accenture to spin up a coffee company. It started in Central Virginia, and the whole idea is like bringing craft coffee, premium roasted coffee to the Metro DC area, and it evolved from there. We had a brick and mortar strategy for a bit, then a wholesale business, an online business, sort of finding our way through, ultimately hitting on what became our claim to fame, which is nitro cold brew coffee in offices. So the idea being is that employees want amenities in the office. This is a time where ping pong tables and arcade games and things like that were becoming more popular, especially at big tech companies. How can any office get access to amenities that employees would actually use? Well, over 50% of the United States drinks coffee, and a growing population at that time, especially in Millennial and Gen Z, were drinking cold coffee. So we packaged it into kegs, we put it into kegerators, and deployed them on site at these offices as an employee amenity. And it ended up being really successful. We had a number of name brand companies as our clients, and we were able to grow outside the DC area through the Mid Atlantic, up through New York, Boston, Philadelphia, and then eventually the company went national. So we're very, very proud with what we were created. And again, we sort of stumbled on the answer, didn't realize that there would be demand for this product, that we were just innovating and creating as we went. And sure enough, it just became what it became.
So you basically took your knowledge from being a business consultant, telling people how to run a business, to creating your own business, going through all the life cycles and change of strategies that you know good business people will do to make sure that their goal and vision is eventually reached.
Yep, more or less. And what was interesting in how we differentiated in the partnership of those that were running the company is we had that business and engineering mind to bring into the coffee world as opposed to what we call like being a coffee artist. We wanted to bring in those folks, amazing coffee roasters, amazing brewers, but that was not our own personal identity, which is in many cases, in many industries, if you love the product, then you can become a business owner and you're creating that product. I'm sure you see that vein in the wine industry as well. So our viewpoint was slightly different, though we also really, really cared about the coffee at the same time. Like we would go to the producing countries, we would build relationships, we would make direct trades. We really cared about quality. We studied coffee endlessly, trying to brew this perfect product, bringing that blend of art and science together and to create something really incredible. And we think we succeeded.
The company's still going right to this day, right? So something must be
Company
working.
is. It's still going to this day. That's right.
I mean, I think you touched on a really good point there, just for like business owners in general and anybody trying to build anything. It's great to be able to have good processes, be able to do the things you need to do. But I think you need to be able to blend that with a little bit of passion as well. If you don't truly care about the product or what you're doing, I don't care how good your processes are, you're never going to be successful.
I totally agree. And also, even as the business owner, you have to ask yourself, why am I doing this? Are you just in it because you're trying to make money, or you're trying to find something to do with your time? I really believe in a life. It's a life well lived. It's like we all deserve to deeply care about what we are creating in this world, whether that's happening through work or our relationships and families or whatever our craft or art form is. Feeling that connection, feeling the passion, as you said, is so critical, so important. It's the life force, it's life energy to me at least. So I totally agree. You have to do both. You have to care.
The one warning sign is that passion is not going to be enough, though. You do need at least the business acumen, or get the right people around you to help you with the business acumen to bring it all together. Because passion, and we see this in the wine space all the time, lots of passion, no business sense. It doesn't matter how good that product is. If you don't know how to run the business, it's going to fail.
I also agree with that.
There's probably a lot of people out there that don't have passion and just a lot of good business acumen. It's not a life I want to live. I do what I do because I love helping people. That's what gets me up in the morning, and I think that you know makes me able to do it for a longer period of time, and a little bit of happiness with whatever we do in life. just makes everything so much easier.
Yeah, I totally agree. And the gift of business ownership is you get to work with those people in your team and the customers or clients that you're serving, your vendors and partnerships, the community that you're part of. You get to see. I'm sure Zane, you see this in your business as well. You get to see that impact on a very very regular basis, and it feels really really good.
Yeah, and that's for me specifically. That's what keeps me going. Right? Is that impact? It could be the smallest of little change. So you see somebody, or they're like, "Oh, I didn't know that." It sort of gives me that next motivation to keep moving, keep moving, keep moving, and it makes all the difference.
Love it.
So talk a little bit about the coffee side, right? I think we spoke about passion and having process, but you still had to scale. There had to be some decisions along the way, and I think this is when you know I have conversations about this a lot of time, and people want to go from what is it, 500,000 to a million. They want to go from a million to 2 million, and there's hurdles all along the way, and I think people just like, even though there's resources, there's books, there's peer groups, there's services that can help you with those. I think people still get really stuck in understanding how do they scale. And this will run into your current venture pretty well. I think this will be a good segue. But a lot of the time it's me, right? I'm that biggest bottleneck that is stopping the scalability of my business because everything just gets all clumped into me. It feels like, the beaver built the dam and the water can't get through. And I'm that dam that I'm the beaver and the dam that, created the problem. So talk to me about, like, I mean, I'm sure you went through this with a coffee company, right? Like, you spoke about making these moves, these adjustments, and you go to the company's website right now, and they've got all of those things going on, but there's decisions, and people would have had to let go of things, and everybody would have had to taken up their role, hire the right people, and get consultants in. How do we do this? Like, you've been through it. Tell us the secret.
Okay, I'll tell you the secret. So here's how I did it. I didn't do any of those things, and it created a tremendous amount of pain in my life and career. My approach. So in the coffee company, I served as the chief operating officer. That was my role. So my job, as all COOs are, is translating vision into execution, and then actually building the operation, hiring the people, allowing this all to work. And we're a coffee company, so a lot of my focus was in the manufacturing and distribution and customer success and retail operation, which is both, salaried and hourly roles, and sort of this hodgepodge and mix. Meanwhile, cash flow is always relatively weak. So how do you bring in great people if you can't pay them well? Is like all this sort of dance that you have to do. And yeah, I was young when I did it, and I don't think I did it very well in the beginning. I brought in a lot of patterns from what I thought leadership was back then, which was you have to know the most, you have to look strong, you have to have things figured out, you have to be confident, and you have to show a face. So, you know, 500K, like you said, 500K, a million, 2 million, here we go. We're doing the whole run. And all of a sudden, like, the hours I was working became insane. The load, the cognitive load was too much to bear. I felt involved in every decision. I had a team of 40 people working for me. I was involved every meeting, every decision, every Slack channel, copied on every email, because I didn't know anything different. I didn't know how to delegate. I didn't know how to empower people. I didn't know how to create autonomy. I didn't know how to create infrastructure that allowed people to figure out their roles and like work together. I didn't know any of that. And so as a result, what happened is like I totally burned out. I had a breakdown. I had to go to my leadership team. I don't know if I could do this anymore. It was a very painful moment for me, for someone who felt as like, oh, I can do anything. Suddenly I couldn't do this. Suddenly I had to ask for help for what felt like the first time in my life. And that was hard. It was hard to come to terms with that. I at that time, I got coaching and mentorship. I installed frameworks into the business that allowed that infrastructure to exist. And it radically changed my life, and it radically changed the lives of the people that were in the business, and it radically changed the business all at once. I couldn't believe it. It's like I had to go through an identity shift on what leadership was, what my role actually was, and who I needed to be to step into this next stage of the company. And the end result was I was working more of a standard set of hours. I could think more strategically and work on big picture things. I had a team that felt responsible, autonomous. They felt like they had real weight. That their roles had meaning. That it had a piece of it. It's not just helping chase, if you will. And then business results continued to grow, and I couldn't believe it. It was like, what happened here? And I think what happened is by installing these things in the business, it helped me see who did I need to be in this next stage, and that was the secret. So the secret is I went to a ton of pain in order to finally realize that this is not what leadership is meant to be. My job is not to take power, it's to give power. My job is not to do things, it's to teach things. And that identity shift allowed the organization to continue to scale and take me out of the equation.
A lot of questions I have as a follow up from that, but let's start with this one because maybe it's the most personal to me and my experience as well. You realized it's too much and burned out, right? In my personal situation, when I realized it, it was because I probably would have died, right? Like I probably would have had a heart attack and just not been around anymore. And it really shouldn't be. Both of those are terrible. Like burnout, people say, "Oh, I'm burned out." Real burnout can last for years afterwards, right? Like
Yeah.
it has an effect on your internals, like your health, like long-term health. Like it is a terrible thing to do that you get to that point. What are the signs that people should be looking for so that they don't go through the same route that you and I have gone through and getting to a point where it is so detrimental to our health, both physically and mentally, that some of us will get out on the other side. Obviously, you're better living a better health. I've had to take steps to make sure my health is better and all of those types of things. But there are people that don't learn and they obviously go too far and the outcome is a lot worse. But how do we tell people, like how do we show people or put a guide like, hey, these are the things you should be looking out for?
Mm, great question. In my experience, here's how it showed up for me. I wanted to be alone. I wanted to hole myself up. I didn't want to engage with my team. I didn't want to answer questions. Not from the perspective of oh, I shouldn't be answering these questions because I'm COO and whatnot. I was like, I didn't want to answer them. When I walked into our office, I felt that there was almost a dark energy or shadow that was there. I didn't realize that I was the problem. I didn't realize that the relationships I built with the people were felt fabricated. I felt my interest in other activities and things just stopped. I want to slow down. I thought about quitting or leaving. I became more interested in other things, which in startup life is wow, you're radically interested in what you're doing and what you're building. I started becoming disinterested. So that was me. It was closing down, which really was a sign is I needed breath. I needed to just take a breath. And I totally agree. Real burnout perpetuates for a long time. And I think it took me 4 to 5 years after this experience, really reset things. So, which ultimately I ended up in 2019 having to voluntarily step out of the organization, not just due to burnout. There are other factors. I didn't see my personal career continuing with this particular company. I felt actually my job there was done, and that there were people that were better aligned to the future direction of the organization than I was. So, which was an incredibly difficult decision for me to make in my career, but ultimately, again, the right one. Never looked back.
Yeah, that's a good point. Just close up on the burnout situation. If you're surrounded by people and feeling lonely, or if you're doing something that you used to have a passion for and you're no longer feeling passionate for, there's a good chance you've overworked yourself. You're at that point of burnout, and those are the signs you need to look for. A lot of people tell you leadership is lonely. It is lonely, but you should never feel alone. And the
Yes.
moment you start feeling alone, that's a major alarm bell that you should be listening to and you need to make a change.
Yeah, you need to get help. You need to talk to someone, and and personally speak with other founders, speak with other business owners, because I think that we do not talk about these things enough. Again, because of this perception that we need to look strong, that we figured it out. When you go off and raise a bunch of money, you want to have that persona with your investors. You want to have it with your customers, with your own internal employees, even possibly your co-founder. Your spouse or significant other can hear you. You're going to bring things to them, but they may or may not have lived in that seat. And if they haven't lived in the seat, sometimes that advice, at least in my experience, the advice was like, I feel it on the surface, but it's not deeply getting into my core in order to help drive a change in my behavior. So I found a lot of community with other business owners to just talk about this. And there are many communities out there that can share more of this. Is like they're open environments, things like EO, Vistage, YPO, whatnot, that they're built for some of this purpose, but you have to talk to someone.
No, 100% agree. And it could be as simple as something like just another person in the similar industry that you met and grab lunch every now and then, you know, a little vent session between each other and move on. Like it can make such a big difference just to share, right? To, again, if you're feeling alone, that's a problem, but there is that loneliness. But when you realize there's other people going through similar experiences that you are, and you can learn from what they've done well, they can learn from what you've done well, and that sharing of ideas is a good way to grow. It's a good way to curb that burnout ability that's going to come through. And it is a good way to just sort of continue to move yourself forward without, breaking yourself down.
It's great advice, Zane.
But there is the flip side of it, right? You had to go to your partners, you had to tell them how you felt. It's a moment of strength, but I'm sure at the moment you probably felt pretty weak because we all do, right? Like nobody wants to say, damn it, I can't do this anymore. That's a bitter pill for us to swallow, especially for people who have been successful, that have been able to do a lot on their own. And then you had to go into this point where it's like, now I have to be counter to whatever I used to do. And I have to rely on other people, teach other people. And I know you said it was a change in mind shift of what leadership is, but that's still not easy to do. And learning those skills, I mean, just the skill of delegation is probably the hardest skill that anybody has ever had to learn in their lives, because we've all been sort of taught this way to trust ourselves more than to trust others. How do we do this? Like this right here is the crux of how do we keep people healthy and happy? Like, how do we learn these skills? How do we trust our teams? How do we build this environment that allows us to succeed, our team to succeed, and overall to succeed together?
Yeah, I think that there is a muscle memory around delegation. So first of all, back up. Yeah, that moment when I had shared with my leadership team did feel both like a moment of strength and weakness, mostly weakness, honestly, mostly weakness. Because from that position, that initial lens is like, I couldn't do it. If you've built your identity in your life on, I can do it, something that you can't do feels awful. However, there is something in there, which I didn't learn until later, is the power of vulnerability and how vulnerability ties to leadership. Amy Edmondson, who's a researcher out of Harvard, talks about this concept of psychological safety. This topic really got a lot of traction, especially during the pandemic, with some also misnomers on like what psychological safety is. But what it really is a team's feeling of interpersonal safety, that they can take an interpersonal risk without some sort of crash out from the leader or the rest of the team. And what that really means is that in order to create that safety, the leader themselves has to set that container. They're the number one influencer of creating psychological safety or not. And I think a lot of that is through vulnerability. It's about being real. It's about, yeah, maybe you don't have to rah confident all the time. Tell people how it is. Tell people how you really feel. It creates this container of safety that actually is highly correlated with team learning behaviors, which is then correlated with team performance. And this is across any type of team, any type of company. So I think there's something in there. And Zane, remind me of your other question. I got lost on a tangent there.
No, that's you've answered it. Like this is like how do we learn the skills? But
Right,
it's not
delegation.
even about learning the skills, right? You've sort of covered it. Like who cares about learning the skills? What it is this realization that people perform best when they feel safe, and you got to learn to create that environment. I'm a big believer in that. I know there's all the books out of there. I've read some of them. Like when people feel safe, they feel like they can be themselves. They feel like they can make well judgment decisions and not, have negative content. Obviously, there can be some negative, but that it won't just lead to like an explosion. Like all of these things make people perform better because when people feel safe and secure, they do feel a little bit more relief. There is no tension. They're a little bit more efficient and they get to do what they do really well, which is the reason you hired them in the first place.
That's right. And I want to tie that into delegation. I just remembered. So, how does one build the skill in delegation? As I mentioned, is like muscle memory. A lot of times, the way that leaders, especially business owners, see delegation and why they struggle with it is like they've tried to delegate and it doesn't go the way they want. And usually, because it doesn't go the way they want, they adapt. They create this mindset where it's just faster if I do it myself. Why would I train someone else to do it? I already know how. It's actually more, it creates this bottlenecking. I think that's the beginning of bottlenecking because yeah, you probably are as you're a firm owner, a business owner, the best in doing this task. Why? You've had so much experience in doing it. You've found all the efficiencies. Of course, it's going to take you 20 minutes to do it and it's going to take them 5 hours to figure it out. And so the mental math sounds like it doesn't check out. But compound that across 100 different things, like you're getting yourself stuck in a job as opposed to owning a business. So to help me personally with this, I created a framework around delegating that helps it stick. And the driver of it is really getting the context out of the leader's head and into the hearts and minds of the team. 6 components: naming the responsibility, describing it in 1 and 2 sentences, showing what success looks like, articulating a process if it needs to get done in a certain way, defining the decisions that they make that you can make or that others need to make, and what resources can you give them to enable them to do the task well. And if you define these things, it really clears it helps with the definition, but also the training of the thing that you're trying to delegate. And I've really found it successful in terms of like having that shared context. The fun part is, and Blake Oliver is the one that pointed this out, is that, as we approach AI, it's the same thing. The framework doesn't change.
So
Because,
running straight through
humans
my
and
head
AI,
as you were saying it, I was like, that sounds like prompt engineering at its best
right?
right there.
It's all language, it's all context, and whoever is doing the task, like, we are AI and AI is us. Like it was created out of us, out of how humans work and think and write. And so they end up being the same thing.
Absolutely fascinating. And systems are so important. And having a system to delegate like that, if anybody wants to take anything, I'll probably snip that, put it up as a short so people can claim that because that is like perfection right there. So that's good. But you are helping accountants right now, right? Talk about a place of people that run themselves to burnout, think they have to do everything themselves, don't want to delegate because I can do it quicker than everybody else. And you've gone, well, there's a bottleneck. They need help. I'm going to help them. So tell me about human at scale.
Sure. Well, this is what we do. We are a strategic operations agency for accounting firms. The number one problem that we solve are firm owner bottlenecks. So the firm owner gets to a point where not only are they managing the clients, but managing the team and also some of the administrative stuff. And they might have people, they might have roles filled to do these things. And yet somehow they've found themselves too over concerned or too stuck inside their own business. Again, they have a job as opposed to being a business owner. So what we do is we come in with an approach around operations that acknowledges that it's sort of this entangled ball of people and process and data and culture and technology all together. And we systematically disentangle it, put in new systems, habits, behaviors, and routines across the entire company to allow the firm owner to get relief on no longer having to work in the day to day so that they can focus on either reclaiming their time for themselves or focus more on vision, growth, sales opportunities, possibly acquisition and future succession planning, all the things that just require their thought.
So intrigued by the people that would come to you, right? Because it feels like there has to be some major realization point or awakening from these firm owners to actually have to sort you out, right? And it's like I get like stuck back. Like most of the time, these people don't even understand they have a problem, right? But those are probably not the ones that you're working with. These are the ones that have, from whatever realization in their life, maybe it was their own burnout, maybe it was a loved one telling them, hey, this is too much. Maybe it's their team coming and say, hey, we're going to walk out the door if you don't let go. There has to have been a big moment that they're like, we need help. And Chase is like,
Usually, we find that it goes both ways, but you're right, Zane. that some awakening happens. I call them catalytic events. It's that event where the status quo simply cannot continue and things must change at all costs. And in my story that I shared today, I had my own version of this catalytic event where that status quo could not continue at all costs. Like I had to radically change my behavior. I need to hire and get help to help me do that. So we see ourselves in the same way. Now, the interesting part is, human at scale is not coaching, and we are also not traditional consulting. This is not about creating a bunch of deliverables for people to have that awakening themselves where they see is like, oh, this is different. We actually drive the execution and implementation of this. We're professional change managers that help take these firms from point A to point B. And included in that is not just working with the CEO, but also the entire firm. So, because again, in order to give relief to any firm owner bottlenecks, the rest of the company needs to be operating at high performance to build that trust so that the firm owner can delegate more, see how the system is getting built so that teams can get empowered and do their jobs well. And they no longer have to have all this back and forth sometimes with the firm owner. So it's really this beautiful process that we've created around not just helping the firm owner, but also helping the team. It's this massive up leveling that happens across the entire firm. And typically it also leads to greater employee retention, higher revenue growth, some profit growth, depending on the strategy that they're trying to obtain, happier clients, better use of technology, better use of practice management tools. It's all one thing. Again, operations is this like ball of all these things all at once. So we systematically put the things in place to give that relief to everyone.
Yeah, I love on your website, it's like sound familiar. You're busy all day, yet the firm still can't operate without you. I think that's just like such a great question. And I know it's so simple and like, oh, of course, right? But this is something I had a couple of years back where I was like, if I drop dead tomorrow, which was a real, I'm working myself to the bone, like this could happen. Like this will probably cease to exist in a few months. I wanted at the time, I would want to tell myself in a few years, but realistically, probably in a few months, because I was doing everything. I was the gatekeeper to everything. Nobody could make their decisions. And that's a bad place to be. And you have to learn to let go and get the help. Even if it is just, to find more time to do things you love, it can make a huge difference.
hmm I also think it's in the business owner's financial incentive as well. Like if you've ever wanted to exit your firm, then what would a buyer be most interested in? Are they interested in a firm that's run by an overworked firm owner in which they've stitched together all the things and they're the key person risk? The valuation on such a firm is going to look more like an acqui-hire or a depressed valuation simply because the operation isn't turnkey. It's really the firm owner who has created that well-oiled machine. Clients are happy, people are happy, we have new business coming in, everything's systemized and doesn't require that firm owner to be there in the same way or show up in the same way. They're going to get such a higher and more premium valuation because they actually have a business. And that's the transformation that we are creating with firm owners, like help them get out of that day to day so that they get their time back, but they are also getting a premium if they choose to sell.
So when you walk into a firm, like what's that like easy win that you see more times than most when it comes to firm owners and trying to help them with their operations?
I think the easiest win I see is reprogramming a firm's system of meetings that governs how the organization runs. Like many companies, meetings are often a waste of time or they don't happen enough. And it's a lot of asynchronous communication, a lot of back and forth, a lot of using email or messages to answer things. And creates this slowness. It looks like speed, but it's slowness. So we install a system of meetings that helps the firm improve communication, especially around the metrics that matter. So system of meetings, building operating dashboards so we know we make work visible. We're clear on the operating metrics. Firm owner's clear on what's going on. Team is clear on what they need to be doing. Clarifying roles. Again, sometimes walking in is like, okay, who's working on this client and what's my job on this one and how many clients do we even have and what services do we offer? And because it's gotten all custom and our packaging isn't as good. So it's creating clarity. It's mapping all of this out, helping the firm owner make decisions and helping this team see those decisions being made so they know what they need to do. Usually those simple things we see time and time again. And firm owners just like, wow, it's great. Instead of me jumping into a meeting, me figuring out what we want to talk about, they're able to just sit back and read reports and like talk to the team and like have insight happen inside their own mind. They're taking notes. It's like, okay, I now am no longer drowning as much. Now I'm popping out for a breath of fresh air. And now I can think. And the firm needs that firm owner thinking. That it's a huge asset.
Yeah.
It's going to help to grow the company. It's going to help see the vision and move things forward. And if we don't have firm owner thinking, it's never going to move forward. So that's what we help create.
How do we get that mind, like those firm owners to change their mind, like mind shift? Like how do they shift their minds, right? Because I think we're all like, especially accountants, most of us have like grown up in this compliance world where we do, right? And I would say, and I'm super generalizing right here, but a lot of accountants don't really have that, entrepreneurial mindset, and a lot of them sort of are accidental entrepreneurs and through this process because that's just what we do as accountants. We go open our firm and hang our name and all those good things, and then they realize like it's not the same. You can't just be a doer. There's a little bit more to it, but that requires a big shift in mindset to be able to make those adjustments. And what how do we get how do we get them to change that mind shift, or what is that mind shift that needs to occur for these people to be successful?
There's a really great book out there called The E-Myth Revisited. And I think it's Michael Gerber who wrote this. He talks about the technician, the manager, and the entrepreneur. The technician is concerned with the doing. They're the crafts person. If you're running a bakery, it's the person that bakes the pies. And you're really good at baking pies. That's why you got into the business. But at that level, that's what you do. You're busy, you do the doing, you make the sales, and that's it. At the level of manager is building the system or the architecture to make the baking of pies possible. So it's concerning with things like the location and and pricing and hiring and the process or system by which these pies are being made. And then finally is the level of the entrepreneur, which is about vision and creativity and in some ways expansion, and not being concerned with how the day-to-day is run, but more concerned about what is possible, where things are going, more future orientation. And for accountants, many of them that are running their own firms are stuck in that technician mindset, where again, is like, I'm the best accountant. I've been doing this for 20, 30 plus years, and that is my identity. And I also run a business. I think that's great. I think that's a very beautiful thing. But in most cases, that's only going to get you so far before things start getting stuck. You start getting really busy. And then you're going to think to yourself, it's like, wait a second, why did I hire all these people again? I think things were simpler when I had fewer clients and it was just me and a handful of contractors and whatnot. We tell ourselves that story, right? So it's that evolution of mindset from technician to manager and manager to entrepreneur that is necessary here. And for Human at Scale, how we help, we step in that management layer where we're building the system and architecture to allow the business to run and scale without the CEO, the firm owner, needing to do it. And our belief is that that helps this motion of no longer seeing themselves as a technician, but more as the entrepreneur. They can skip that middle step.
Yeah, I love that. And as accountants, we love systems. And if Chase and his team can come in and help you build a system, like I feel like go give him a phone call right now because, you know, he'll help you put that in place, make you feel very good about yourself as an accountant that there is a system and give you the best opportunity to be successful. So that's great. What is one like best piece of advice you would give any leader right now? Like, what is that a piece of advice? Maybe something that was told to you, something you've heard, something you've read. Like, what is that piece of advice that would make a difference in any leader's life today?
I think that find hard problems and then solve them. First of all, that's more entrepreneurial advice than I think leadership advice. But it's really could be that simple. I read about this, hear about it, learn about it. I don't think I quite got it until much later on. It kind of slapped me in the face and getting it. And previous failed ventures, and just like I was just building things that people didn't want. So if you're ever lost or you're not making as much money as you want or there's not as much traction, go talk to more customers or prospective customers, learn where their problems are, and find ways to solve them. It can be that simple. I think from a leadership angle, tell people, everything I think is inward. It's like all the answers you're looking for in terms of leadership are inward. You can use a lot of different tools to look inward. I mean, there's things like meditation and journaling and breath work and yoga and receiving feedback from your team and self inquiry and therapy and coaching and personality assessments, even plant medicines too. Is like there's so many tools to help you know yourself, which is where all your power is, your leadership. Find people that you trust to give you feedback honestly, and build a safe environment for your team to give you feedback honestly. Ask for it proactively. I think that those tools are like on the path to help develop one's leadership.
Chase, this has been a great conversation, but it wouldn't be a Protea conversation if we don't talk a little bit about you as a person and just, take 2 minutes and just tell us about, like, what do you do in your spare time? Like, who's Chase, the person outside of business?
Yeah, I think so I create games. I grew up playing video games of all types, strategy, RPG games, online games, and whatnot. And I've actually designed a card game. It's called Bowl of Punishments, and it's built to create a feeling of like ragging on your friends a little bit, whereas maybe alcohol would have been the thing, to use to like help rag on your friends, but it kind of creates a feeling it's a game for close friends to increase connection. But I used to code games in Visual Basic, turn in like English school projects by like coding a game, burning it on a floppy disk, and turning it in. And I have a workout group here locally in Bend, Oregon, and it's like it's peer workout, so we all take a turn of doing it. So I'll create like a game, like a Settlers of Catan themed workout or a Monopoly themed workout. I love games. I love creating games specifically.
Ben, to come hang out with you. That sounds like fun.
Yeah, let's hang.
Yeah. I really have appreciated this. We always end Protea Conversations with some rapid fire. So I got 5 questions for you if you're ready.
Let's do it.
What's one productivity tool or app you could not live without?
Notion.
Right.
It's everything in our business. We are Notion fanatics, and yeah, it's amazing.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee, obviously.
So tell us, like, is there a local roaster that you like, or is there one that I can go order online? Like, what's the go-to?
CommonwealthJoe.com. Virginia roasted coffee based out of DC area. Really high quality product. We put a lot of care into that.
Absolute entrepreneur right there. If you could have a dinner with any entrepreneur, living or dead, who would it be?
Dinner? Love him or hate him, I still think Elon Musk. Love him or hate him, that guy has something going on. Like he knows certain things, and I would love an opportunity to learn from him.
It's a great option. What's your dream vacation?
Dream vacation, a lot of open space and a lot of unscheduled time. And then, doesn't matter where it is or the activity is, like that's my type of vacation.
And I'm going to switch up the last one quickly. Favorite board game of all time?
Favorite board game of all time? This isn't much of a
what
board
you like
game.
right now. I mean, you can swing it however you like.
This isn't a board game, but I'm into Set and The Mind, which is a really fascinating game. And then I love playing Rummy Cub, also known as Rummy Cube. I don't know which to pronounce it by.
I think Cub is what we have it in our house. And
yeah,
I like it too. But between my 10-year-old and my wife, I consistently lose. So, and I'm a terrible loser and a worse winner. But I definitely push things aside. That I'm not that getting beaten by a 10-year-old is never fun.
Yeah, wow.
Chase, I appreciate the time. It was wonderful to have you on Protea Conversations.
I appreciate it, Zane. Thanks for having me on.
And with that, we end another Protea Conversations. Thank you for joining us in this journey of learning and inspiration. Today, we've gained insight from our guest and taken another step towards understanding the diverse tapestry of leadership in business and accounting. Remember, each conversation is a step towards the positive transformation of business leaders. We hope our discussion has given you valuable takeaways to apply in your own career and life. Don't forget to subscribe to Protea Conversations on YouTube and Spotify so you never miss an episode. We'd also love to hear your thoughts and experiences, so connect with me on social media channels. I'm most active on LinkedIn and would love you to join the conversation. Join us next time for more engaging stories, advice, and conversations that matter. Until then, keep striving for excellence and embracing growth. Thank you for listening, be kind, and goodbye from Protea Conversations.